you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sevda. Thank you for that emotional and heart-rending speech. Next, we have a beloved friend and colleague who has been to Gaza, who has stayed on in Gaza for a good few weeks throughout the time when Rafah Gate was attacked. We're very, very proud of him. We're very, very proud and honored that he can join us this evening. We would like to welcome Dr. James Smith.
Thank you. Okay. I've got a few words I want to share, and many of them are actually are not mine. They're from a friend of ours in Gaza. But before I get to Nermin's testimony, there are a few things I want to share. Firstly, I want to actually acknowledge, and I hope folks will forgive me this, but we're back here again 9 months later, amongst friends and colleagues and comrades, and yeah, I mean, as Sevda has so eloquently put it, it's incomprehensible to believe that we're still here after 9 months, and certainly having seen it firsthand, that anyone has permitted, enabled, financed, supported this militarily, politically, financially, culturally, is just incomprehensible to me. And were it not for the fact that we're here together in the rain, I think I would have lost all hope in anything. Nevertheless, we're back again. We've got a new resident in Downing Street. It's a Tory with a different colour. Certainly as complicit in the genocide as the last. And there's something that I want to remind us all of. This is a brief excerpt from an interview that Keir Starmer gave back in October that I'm sure we all remember. But I think it's worth reminding ourselves exactly what he said. October the 13th, I think this was. Israel had already committed phenomenal war crimes within the first few days. Keir, Israel does have the right to defend herself. Nick Ferrari of LBC. So, Sir Starmer, a siege is appropriate, question mark. Cutting off power, cutting off water, question mark. Keir Starmer, now our Prime Minister. I think that Israel does have that right. Shame. So this is our new Prime Minister. I think one thing that I also just want to say, and I don't want to hold the mic for too long, I'm hopeful that we can get Mohammed if possible, but one of the things that I want to remind us of, and I draw here from our anarchist comrades, politics doesn't start and end at the ballot box. We know that. We're not naive to these things any longer. We've gone from Tories to Tory light, if I can even give them such a title. We know that this is the political organising that needs to obviously continue and that needs to be sustained and beyond a ceasefire. And Ghassan Abu Sita reminds us of this. What happens the day after? Do we return to occupation? Do we return to blockade? Do we return to apartheid? Do we return to slow genocide, which is what many Palestinian scholars have described of October 6th and prior to? So this is, of course, a critical moment for us in terms of sustaining this political movement and this movement for a free Palestine beyond the ceasefire. So I spoke to a friend of mine, one of my dear friends, Nermin, yesterday. I told her that I'd be here again 9 months later, that I'd be speaking to our new Prime Minister, and that I'd be here with you all. And I asked her, is there anything that you want me to say? And she passed on this. So Nermin, this is for you. And inshallah, next time I see Nermin, it'll be under very different circumstances. So this is what she said. This is what she wants me to share with you all. As a healthcare worker, I'm tired. No matter how strong I am or trying to be strong, but what has happened and is still happening is so much. No human can tolerate what we have to deal with. I arrive to the point that sometimes when casualties happen, my mind literally shuts off for a few minutes. I can't absorb this terrifying thing. Then I will start to work again as a robot. Never forget how difficult it is as medical staff here. Oh, sorry, I've just lost this. The rain's having a Zionist moment and has just deleted all of my words. Sorry. Let me pull up my WhatsApp. She did send me a video of her on the beach today, which was lovely. This is what she said, sorry. I will start to work again as a robot. Never forget how difficult it is to have medical staff here. Then when all of this finishes, in the night, my mind will start to think about everything, and I close my eyes with two impossible wishes. The first one is that when I open my eyes again, that this is all finished and that there are no more people dying. The second one is to open my eyes and to find myself on my bed in my room and to find that all of this is just a nightmare and that we're all fine, that I still have my home, that my cousins are still alive, that my friends are also alive, and that our beautiful Gaza is still beautiful. So yes, I think that's all I have to say for this evening, if that's okay. Thank you, folks.
Thanks so much, James. Next, we're going to call on a friend who has been with us throughout this fight since last year, since October, since November. They made a great stunt today. We're very, very proud of them. We're very, very jealous of that idea. But we would like to welcome Emily from Namod. Please welcome.
Hey everyone, I've come across a trick, which is to actually not write your speeches down, because then the rain can't stop you from reading it. Think smarter, not harder, guys. Okay, sorry, I won't make any more jokes. First of all, I want to thank everyone for turning up in the rain today. This is probably the most English thing I could imagine, standing around on the day that we've elected a man in a red tie instead of a blue tie to embarrass us on the world stage. In the absolute pouring rain, all of us looking like drowned rats. Yeah. But I'm very proud of everyone for turning up today. And if I can toot my own horn for a moment, I'm very proud of my fellow Namodniks who woke up this morning at 6 a.m. to do a banner drop off Westminster Bridge in this weather. Some of us, me, very much worse for wear for having spent the entire night watching Tories cry. We have to take small victories so we can get them, right? I've been asked today to speak on some of the parallels between the Bosnian genocide and the genocide that we are currently witnessing in Gaza. Usually when I'm here, when I'm speaking to people, when I'm speaking on PSE stages, I'm talking about my Jewish heritage. And, I'm a very proud anti-Zionist Jewish woman. I'm very proud to speak about that, but thank you. Don't clap. It's the bare minimum, guys. It's the bare minimum. But I'm also Bosnian on my mother's side, and her family, or my family, is actually from Srebrenica. And we lost countless members of our family in the genocide. So, as the 11th of July is the 29th anniversary of the Srebrenica massacre, which is the only incident that the ICJ deemed constituted genocide in the entire 4-year disaster that was the Bosnian War. So thanks to that ICJ. I wanted to speak a little bit about it and paint an image for you. Don't worry, you don't have to hold hands and close your eyes for this one. Imagine it has been 2-3 years of your country tearing itself apart, right? You have been herded into a UN-designated safe zone. The occupying army surrounds you. They block all food, they block water, they block basic medicines. You are starving in slow motion. Your children sicken and die. Your relatives sicken and die from things as simple as infected tooth abscesses, from things as simple as gastroenteritis. The US and the UK And the UN and NATO make a bunch of platitudes about how, actually, you shouldn't dream dreams. You shouldn't think about having your own state. You shouldn't want better for yourself. But all you want is for this to end. And then one day, in the heat of summer, and it does get oppressively hot out there, well, for me at least. Maybe not if you're actually from somewhere warm, but if you're a wimp like me. One day, when it's oppressively hot, they herd you into a bunch of cow sheds. You've probably worked in these sheds, also industrial buildings before, right? This is the town you grew up in. This is the town your family's from. This is the town that your relatives are members of the Communist Party in. This is the town that your parents and your grandparents fought and maybe even died for in World War II when fascists were marching across your country. They herd you in there for days, while the UN soldiers stand outside uselessly, waiting, conversing with your would-be genocide heirs. And then one day, they come in and they herd all of the men and boys of quote-unquote fighting age away. And to them, fighting age is anything above the age of 12. You never see them again. You never see your husbands, your brothers, your sons, your cousins, your neighbors, your friends, your classmates, even the people that you hate. You never see them again until maybe one day someone 20 years later comes across a mass grave and you identify them from the shoes that they were wearing on the day that they were herded into school gymnasiums, into canning plants, into sheds, and were just mown down like they were nothing. And then they were thrown into mass graves. That happened to 18 members of my own family when my mother was 5 months pregnant with me. And this is a story that is not just happening in Bosnia. How many of you thought that sounded like something that would happen today in Rafah? It took the world 4 years to do anything about Bosnia. 4 years, 101,000 people killed in a completely avoidable genocide. The youngest member of my family that was killed in that genocide would be 30 this year. His crime was being an 8-month-old baby. And yet I can stand here today and speak to all of you about this, because I had the privilege to be born in England and not Srebrenica. But now that I've talked to you about something so terrible and so miserable, there is a story of hope in here. We have witnessed more than the human heart can bear in the last 9 months. In fact, we've witnessed more than the human heart can bear in the last 76 years. We've had to endure a government that embarrasses us on the world stage, that aids and abets genocide, be that through the tacit support of the Israeli state in international institutions or through the granting of arms licenses. And we have marched and we have protested, and it has all felt so useless. It's felt like it's been for nothing. Every time we go on the streets, every time we get called terrorist sympathizers, or my personal favorite, Jew haters, which is again very funny to me as a Jewish woman that apparently I hate myself. We witness a machine that is willing to manufacture consent for a genocide. We witness a machine that tells us that the lives of Palestinians are completely worthless, certainly worth less than prime beachfront real estate in Gaza. We witness a system which would manufacture consent for the Israeli state to massacre Lebanese people, to plunge the region into an even greater war. We witness the manufacturing of consent for a system that raises children in Israel and teaches them that Palestinians are not their cousins, are not their neighbors, are not their friends, but are enemies to be feared. But we're still here. We're in the rain. We've elected a new Prime Minister. We're protesting on Saturday. We're doing something about it. It may seem inevitable, it may seem endless, it may seem hard, but the only way out is through. It took us 4 years in Bosnia, 4 years and over 30 years later of guilt and regret and shame and sadness. But we rebuilt our country from the ashes. I have never been so sure that I'm going to live to see a free Palestine, even in the midst of all this sorrow. I have never been so sure that I will live to see a single state where everyone can live alongside each other, where some lives are not valued over others, where no one questions whether or not a child cries in a different language when their parents are killed in front of them. There is a new world struggling to be born, and it is our honor and our duty to be her midwife. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you so much. Everybody, thank you so much for coming and still staying with this drench of a rain. We do have, and we're very honored to still have another, I want to say a regular, our beloved Dr. Sui Ang.
Okay, right. Thank you very much. Okay, am I loud enough? Okay, I'll be very, very loud, okay? Now, actually, I was fiddling around hoping to get Mota here on the phone, okay, but I can't. So I really don't know what's happening in Khan Yunis and Rafah. This is my colleague who is on his second mission volunteering there. He worked in the European Gaza hospital at the first stretch, and instead of coming back to settle in the UK, he returned, and now he's on his second mission. And some of you might have seen him on the BBC interview, and those of us who know him know how tired and exhausted he is. But I know his spirit is not broken, and he will be there. But what I'm concerned about is why is he not answering me? Because he really looked forward to talking to you all. Because his last message to me is that, can we do something to stop this? And I told him, yes, no matter what happened, we will. So we are here, and although there's not many of us, thank you for being here. Thank you for standing in the rain. I think all of us woke up this morning extremely depressed. And for me, it's doubly depressed. Because it's not that we have a political party that thinks that genocide is the right thing, and genocide is the right of defense. I, as founder of Medical Aid for Palestinians, also have a double blow because our CEO has gone to join him, and the board of MAD trustee thinks it's okay too. And I really do not know what to do because our field workers are still in Gaza. There are 11 of them facing death, delivering healthcare. And our field officers in Lebanon are also working in the refugee camps and the West Bank as well. So you have this dichotomy. An NGO, MAP is an NGO, but actually it's not an NGO, which is a point for everybody to turn to when there's a disaster with the Palestinians, to donate to volunteer to, for the Palestinians. We are founded 42 years ago when we survived the Sabra Shatila massacre, and we know that we have to do something for the Palestinians. There are very limited options because I cannot run to be an MP, so we got together and founded an organization. We call it Medical Aid for Palestinians, not medical aid for whoever is across the road. And over the years, because our steadfast support for the Palestinians through all the difficult situations, we became the first go-to point for Palestinians and Palestinian supporters. Now I got the problem of coming clean with you because it's no longer like that from where I'm standing. And I really don't know what the future holds for medical aid for Palestinians. And I also don't know what the future holds for Britain. And whatever it is, I know that we have a role and we have to be here. We have to be strong. Palestine is bigger than map. Palestine is bigger than Britain. Palestine is humanity. It is our litmus test for humanity, for justice, and we do not quit on Palestine, come what may. And I don't know what to say to you. You know the facts. So I think Health Worker for Palestine is reinstating this vigil. And so come rain or sunshine, we'll be here every first Friday of the month. So the next one will be in August. And I'll see you here, whatever it is. And it is also very important so that the Palestinians know that much as we feel desperate, we will not forsake them. We will stand by them. We'll never forget them. Because without them, we have no humanity. And to abandon them at a time like that, we have lost it. And there's no hope for mankind. So let's make it on this dreadful day, with this horrible weather, with our hearts breaking because you know that I don't know what the government policy will be on Palestine, and say we support the two-state solution is a fib. Because two-state solution when? In 5 years? In 10 years? What kind of two-state? We have been talking about two-state solution since 1993. So let's not be deceived. We want a proper ceasefire. We want the Palestinians to have human rights like all of us have. We want them to have justice and freedom, and that's what we'll campaign for. We want them to have self-respect. We want them to run their own society, and we will be here as they rebuild their country. Is that okay?
Thank you so much, Sui. That was very loud, very loud. Sui, thank you for endorsing. Yes, you've heard it from the big, lovely Honorable Sui herself. We are all going to be here again, the first Friday of every month, because we need to continue. We need to continue to be here. We need to continue to remember the killed healthcare workers, the missing healthcare workers, the tortured healthcare workers, and all of the people in Gaza and West Bank right now. We do have another speaker, and this is a Palestinian doctor, so we're very, very proud and very honored that she has come. Nadine is a hematologist, and we're very happy that she can be with us today. Thank you, Nadine.
Thank you very much for inviting me to come here. I'm really just an ordinary person. I'm Palestinian, I'm a medic, and I really don't even really deserve to be here amongst these amazing people who have done so much work, about the amazing doctors who've gone to Gaza. So thank you, really. I'm actually honored to be here. So I have some thoughts to share with you. I have been watching and reading, like everyone else, the atrocities as they unfold. I'm still in shock and in grief 9 months on. 9 months of massacres, death and destruction, and 9 months of world leaders turning a blind eye to the mass murder of Palestinians. my people. And it's not just 9 months, it was 76 years and more. Endless and continuous. And not just Gaza, but all of Palestine. First, I want to say that this space, the Health Workers for Palestine vigils, have been amazing. Because I remember coming here the first time in October with the first vigils. And it's created the space where we can talk and where we can share. And I've been going to the vigils ever since they've started, seeking comfort and courage and seeking humanity. And what is most striking, I noticed that after the vigil, no one goes away. Everyone is standing by and talking with each other, trying to find another person to just share something with, complete strangers. And we've all become friends together this way. And we seek from each other not just courage and support, but also to affirm that we are human. We will not stand by and let this happen. Let me tell you something else. It is absolutely horrific. There's only so much we can all take, and that's just us sitting here in a privileged position, watching people being torn apart. There are more amputee children in Gaza than anywhere else in the world. There are more amputees, full stop, than anywhere else in the world. I remember taking my children to museums here in the UK to teach them about the history of medicine when we did those projects. And we learned about the first anesthetic. And we pretended to have our limbs sawn off on the oldest anesthetic table that when that was first happened in these old theatre museums. I think back to that and think, is that an absolute joke? This is happening now in real time. It's not a history book. I think about praising the discovery of antiseptic. And we talked about the amazing discoveries and the use and the saving of lives. And now people are dying, being killed, and being treated, or not even able to be treated. No antiseptics. People have wounds with maggots in their wounds. Can you just imagine that? It's not a history book. And we are allowing this to continue. So we will not stand by in silence. I used to be silent. I used to hide my Palestinian identity because I was told it was too complicated, because I was apologetic not to upset somebody else's feelings and change the atmosphere of the evening. But I will not be silent anymore. And no one around me can be silent anymore. And the silence is most marked in our academic institutions and in our hospitals. Why can't I speak up and just say, stop killing? I'm a doctor. I save lives. At least I try to. Why can't we just say, stop killing and save Palestinian lives? It's because we can't discuss it at work. We're told it is political. Let me tell you, it is not political. By saying it is political, it means that there are sides. And I can choose that I'm going to take this side or that side. Like choosing a party now in our elections. That we have a luxury to choose. Don't allow anyone to tell you that it is political. Because by saying it is political, they're allowing us to dismiss it. And by dismissing it, it is part of the erasure of Palestinian identity. So we will keep talking, and we will keep telling people that Palestinians exist. We will continue to exist, and we will not allow anyone to allow them to be killed. They use excuses for the genocide and perpetuate it, and our media continues to perpetuate it. So let's say it for what it is. It is murder, it is a massacre, and it includes our health workers who are not a target. Everyone please repeat, health workers are not a target. Health workers are not a target. So 47,000 people have been killed. Are we going to stay silent? 15,000 children have been killed. Are we going to stay silent? 86,000 people are injured. Are we going to stay silent? 500 health workers have been killed. Are we going to stay silent? 361 health facilities have been destroyed. Are we going to stay silent? 31 hospitals completely destroyed. Are we going to stay silent? 227 ambulances have been destroyed. Are we going to stay silent? So what are we going to do? We will use our voice. We will use our consumer power. We will boycott. We will boycott Israeli goods, and we will think about all our buying. Is it ethical? All our investments, is that an ethical investment? And we will use our electorate power to lobby our politicians and put pressure on them that we will not stay silent and accept the death of thousands of people in our name. So not in our name. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Nadine. Thank you for that inspiring speech. We now have another, I hate to say it, regular, because obviously we are doing this regularly, and she has attended, and she has been one of our biggest supporters, our biggest motivators. We would like to welcome Miriam Francois up next. Thank you.
Hi everyone. First off, oh my God, you don't have to hold that. Bless you. I appreciate that. But yeah, I've got a soggy paper with some notes. But really, I first of all wanted to connect with everyone and just say a huge thank you for turning out. Like, it's such an important day to be here, specifically here, right, where we stand today, to send a very strong message to the incoming government about the fact that the Gaza issue, the Palestine issue, is not going anywhere, okay? This is not a fad, it's not a trend, we're just cuter than you. No, sorry, that was a sidebar. I wanted to be with you today because I know that there was a lot of hope placed on independent candidates, and that a lot of people were hoping that we might see Labour punished more for its failure to call for a ceasefire, for its moral failure at a time where the party, which is meant to represent workers, should be representing the majority of people in this country who've long wanted a ceasefire. But I therefore wanted to kind of focus on a few things that may be a little bit heartening at this point. So none of obviously what we're seeing coming out of Gaza right now offers much in the scope for hope. We are the hope. Those of us outside of Gaza right now are the hope. And you have to always remember that in the periods where we feel like we want to give up, like we're tired, like it doesn't feel like we're getting anywhere. You have to remember that for the people in Gaza, we are the only hope. I say that in the knowledge that, for example, some of the most vocal Palestinians within Gaza, people like Bisan, have not been seen or spoken publicly for 4 days, which is very unusual for those of you who follow Bisan, as you will know. That is an indication, of course, of what must be the horrors of the situation she's going through, like everybody else. But when she goes quiet, we have to get louder. That's how it works, right? When Bisan gets tired, when everyone gets tired, we have to pick up the pieces and push on and make sure that the incoming government understands that actually it did take quite the slap in this election. And I know they won't present it that way, but I did want to maybe take a minute to discuss the ways in which actually there have been some indication of the shift in our culture that has occurred in no small part thanks to each and every one of you, thanks to people like yourselves turning up week in, week out, thanks to the people who've been canvassing, supporting independent candidates, who've been speaking and in some cases harassing their MPs to make sure that this issue is front and center in their minds. And first of all, I want to congratulate Lian Mohammed. Can we congratulate? Lian Mohammed is a 23-year-old British Palestinian who went up against the literal institution in the form of wedge-stressing, and in that she almost defeated him. That is huge. I think we really have to acknowledge what happened here. A 23-year-old British Palestinian took on the establishment in her first ever attempt at a political run, and she almost ousted him. Guys, I know it doesn't translate in the immediacy of the success you expect, but this isn't how these struggles are fought. They're not fought over months. They're fought over years, and these are wins, and we have to recognize them as wins, and we have to recognize them as the success of this movement that you are all a part of today. Labour lost 4 seats to pro-Gaza independent candidates, and of course was being run off very close by several others. And if that can be considered a limited victory, it's a limited victory in that it's indicative of the trend, it's indicative of the direction, it's indicative that the work that we do in turning up is shifting the needle. So please don't lose hope. Don't ever think that this isn't working, that nobody's listening. It is working, it is moving. What you do really does matter. I want to take a moment as well to talk about the fact that our political system encourages us to think that we can abdicate our political role within society to elected leaders. All you have to do, we're told, is turn up once every 4 years, cast your little ballot, and then off you pop for the next years, somebody else's responsibility to govern this country. That is not true. That is part of the Kool-Aid. That is part of the problem. We have to recognize that politics is happening each and every day in this society, and that if we are not actively involved each and every day, we are literally handing over our voice in many cases to the people who are interested in politics day to day. And who are they? They are the big corporations who want to put money behind the sorts of rules that create continuities between forms of oppression in this country. I'm thinking of companies like G4S that operate a really brutal system of control in this country, but also in Israel. And we have to recognize the continuities of the forms of oppression in the types of values that guide our society, because ultimately the real shift that we need to be a part of is a values-based shift. We have, for the last 14 years under Tory rule, seen a massive deterioration of this country away, and not suggesting it was perfect prior to that, but to a society which should be centered around people, around care, around community, around the needs of the people that make up this society. And instead, the entire political system has been redirected over the last over a decade to the interests of large corporations and wealthy individuals. So now the fight is on. It's now time to wrestle that power back. It's now time to claim that actually the values that are going to guide this society have to be the same values that guide not just what we want at home, but also the way our foreign policy operates abroad. And the two are deeply connected. So the work that we do to improve our societies here, the work that we do to ensure that vulnerable people are centered here, ultimately serves to ensure that those same values are what we carry forward as a country in our work and in the work that we do internationally. And so I just want to really take a second for us all to take a breath. It's been a really grueling 9 months, first and foremost for the Palestinians, but also for every single supporter of the Palestinians who has been required to be a witness to the extreme forms of violence that these people have been subjected to. And the reason I want you to take a breath is because we need to get restarted, okay? This is the beginning of the next chapter of the fight. Now, we're not fighting with the Tories, we are taking on Labour. Okay, we're taking on a party which claims to represent the workers of this country, which is all of you, and actually should be aligned with labour movements internationally. So this is the time to get organised. This is the time to get to know your new MPs. Who are they? Do they know you? Do they know about what's happening in Palestine? Are you making sure that this is something that is front and centre? I would love to see the first email in the inbox of these newly elected MPs be an email about Gaza, about Palestine. And there's multiple reasons. We've heard obviously today from health workers who obviously are continuing to work in the harshest of conditions in Gaza itself. But I also want to remind us all that Andrea De Domenico, the head of the UN Humanitarian Office for the Palestinian territories, has said of Gaza that it is the only place in the world where people cannot find a safe refuge and can't leave the front line. There is no justification for this. There is no justification for people being corralled into a space and bombed with no space to escape. This is very simple. You need to take this message to the people in power and you need to say, look, we may diverge on many things, but this right here, bombing people in tents in an enclosed space they cannot flee from, is surely something nobody can disagree with. So let's firstly find that common ground with the people who've just been elected. Secondly, I want to remind you all that just recently, I think in this last week, Shin Bet revealed that they've been holding 21,000 Palestinian prisoners in conditions which have been denounced by every human rights group I can think of. Now, this is not new. For those of you who've been following this for a while, you'll know that the torture, including the sexual abuse of prisoners, is not a new phenomena. However, it might be news to some of the people who've been newly elected. Let's make sure they know about it. Let's make sure they're aware of these human rights reports. Let's make sure they're aware of the reports that are coming out from health workers who have themselves been subjected to these horrors. I also just want to remind everyone a last time that when we go to our representatives, when we lobby for Palestine, we're doing so in a context where we are far beyond a call for a ceasefire, okay? We need a ceasefire. A ceasefire is required right now. But what Palestinians really need is liberation. Right? They need an end to the occupation and they need a Palestinian independent state. And so any time that we communicate with our officials about the horrors, we are not simply doing so in the context of a ceasefire, which we do need. We're doing it in the context of a national liberation movement. Okay? This is a Palestinian national liberation movement, and we have to remember that all of these actions must be situated within that. Now, the context of that, unfortunately, is that we have just witnessed the biggest land grab in the last 30 years. The biggest land grab since Oslo has happened in the last week. What that means concretely is that the basis for a Palestinian state is shrinking before our eyes, okay? it was already highly shrunk and highly implausible to consider a Palestinian state on the areas currently controlled either by Hamas or the PA. But the most recent land grabs makes that even less plausible. So now we're not just saying a ceasefire, we're not just saying a national liberation movement, we're not just saying that the Palestinians need to be able to return to their lands, we are saying that the illegal settlements that are illegal under international law must be dismantled. We've seen some moves from the US, some statements here from the EU. We now need to build on those. The settlements have to go. For there to be a viable Palestinian state, the settlements have to go. There are currently 500,000 settlers living in the West Bank right now. 500,000 people. They need to go. They need to go. They need to go, and it's non-negotiable. It's non-negotiable. So I have spoken more than enough, and I'm sure everyone is very wet, but I appreciate you bearing with me. Just a reminder, the reason I came today was to stand with each and every one of you and to honor the sacrifices that I know you're all making to be here, many of you week in, week out, and to say that we are just getting started, guys. This is a lifelong struggle. It may well outlive us, but that doesn't mean it doesn't matter, and it doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. So fight on. Free Palestine, free Palestine, free Palestine, power to the people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miriam. Thank you. Power to the people. We are going to come to a close. I'm sorry that we've made you stand in this horrible rain for so long. I do have a little poem that was written in December by one of our medical colleagues who cannot be with us today. So I'm sending her message. It's by Dr. Huda Al-Hadithi, and she's written this in December. It's called When is Enough? To the politicians of the world, when is enough? To Rishi Sunak or Keir Starmer and Joe Biden, when will you rise up and say enough is enough? What are you waiting for? More bombs? More phosphorus? More amputated children? It's already more than 2 months too late, or 9 months too late, but you can still halt. You can still halt the never-ending destruction and hate. Use your voice, speak out, and say, enough is enough. To the UN Security Council, when is enough? Resolution after resolution, failed or vetoed, language monitored lest it causes offense. And whilst you can't condemn indiscriminate attacks, the delay tactics of language semantics leads to spiraling deaths. Another 448 hours. Is that not more than enough? It's already more than 2 months too late. But you can still halt the never-ending destruction and hate. Use your voice, speak out, and say, enough is enough. To the artists, singers, footballers, and famous people of our world, when is enough? Your power is in your following and numbers. Use your voices to speak out. Don't be fearful of the lobby that will try and eliminate you. They will try but won't succeed. Have faith in your success. It's already more than 2 months too late, but you can still halt the never-ending destruction and hate. Use your voice, speak out, and say, enough is enough. And to the teachers in a school, when is enough? Remember, education is a human right. And when your Palestinian student wears their Palestinian flag with pride to show his solidarity, have empathy and kindness and mourn his loss. Do not silence him or his grief or report him to prevent. It's already more than 2 months too late, but you can still halt the never-ending destruction and hate. Use your voice, speak out and say enough is enough. And to the NHS, when is enough? Healthcare is a human right. When will you rise up and say enough is enough? 340 healthcare workers have all been killed. 500 now. 131 healthcare facilities, hospitals, clinics and ambulances have all been targeted. It's already more than 2 months too late, but you can still halt the never-ending destruction and hate. Use your voice, speak out and say enough is enough. And finally, to the passerbys of the world, when is enough? To the civil servants, the unemployed, the everyday people who all think that their voice is too small to count. What are you waiting for? More death? More infrastructure loss? The power is in your voice. It's already more than 2 months too late, but you can still halt the never-ending destruction and hate. Use your voice, speak out, and say, enough is enough. Thank you. Okay. We want to do our usual 1 minute silence to remember our colleagues, to remember all that is suffering in Gaza. Remember, speak out even if your voice shakes. Speak out for the people who are being silenced. Speak out for the people who are being tortured. And we will continue our promise to advocate for our healthcare worker colleagues, for all that are suffering in Gaza, again, every first Friday of the month, inshallah. So if we can all take a minute to be silent in their memory. We'll start now.
After all of these concessions, the Ukraine-Russia friendship treaty, the Budapest memorandum, after all of this, we were betrayed as always by the Russian terrorist regime. Shows the Rubenberg, like Viktor Orban, like Robert Fico, like Dr. Carlson, and yes, of course, like a disgusting excuse for a politician called George Galloway. These individuals, they are the lowest existence on earth, my friends. Because they do not care about what happens. They don't care about the consequences of their actions. The only thing they care about is that they fill up their pockets with rubles. And the next year, these rubles are not worthless. That is the only thing they care for. Their own benefit.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Have a good evening. Safe home. I think we're going to end